Clearing your hips in the golf swing and not early extending at the moment of impact where you jump up on your toes is a common error that affects a lot of golfers. If you feel like you're struggling with this area of your game, well, stay tuned. This video is really going to help. Let's get stuck in. Welcome back to the channel, guys. Kerrod Gray on the golf course today here at Joondalup Resort. And in this video, we're going to be talking all about removing the early extension from your golf swing, ensuring that you're positioning your body in such a way that you're able to clear your hips, stay in your posture, just like you see with your favorite golfer on TV. So if you're struggling with this area of your game, I'm going to share some great advice, which is really going to help you rectify this issue. But before we get into it, please go down below, click subscribe, click that little bell if you haven't already. And also, just a little side note, I am available for online coaching. So if you are struggling with early extension, you're not quite clearing your hips how you would like, well, I'm certainly here to help. Send me your swing, 2 videos, one from down the line and one from face on, and then I'll send you back a comprehensive analysis, doing some lines, drawing over exactly where your inefficiencies are coming from, and then I'll stand in front of the camera just like this and give you some personalized help if that's something that you're after. But on to today's lesson, we're talking once again all about early extension. So first of all, let's detail what early extension is. Simply put, at the moment of impact, it's when your body faces the golf ball and is not rotated through, just like what you would see with the professional golfer. From the down the line view, very commonly you'll see players on the range get to a point where their chest and their hips are facing the ball, they jump up on their toes, their arms are bunching up, and that obviously leads to a slew of ball striking errors. So we're going to be talking about why that happens and then how to ensure and enable you to clear your hips through the moment of impact. Get that nice rotation that you see with the guys on TV. So first of all, having an understanding of why this occurs is incredibly important. And today we're just going to be talking specifically about how the hips need to work in the golf swing. So starting off, what we generally see with players who tend to early extend at the moment of impact is they don't get enough what's called hip depth. So depth meaning how far behind them their trail hip gets at the top of the golf swing. So facing in this direction here, if we just bring some awareness to my right hip here, we would see players who generally early extend, they don't get enough depth in the backswing. So what they tend to do is they'll either rotate around their trail hip or their right hip for the right hander. Otherwise, they don't turn their hips at all, meaning that as they're trying to get back to the ball, they've got no room for their arms. And as a result, the shaft comes in steep, they stand up on their toes and present the golf club with a very vertical handle. This can lead to top shots, it can lead to toe shots, and it can also lead to the dreaded shank in the fact that you're getting closer to the ball in space. Well, what do we see with the professional? Well, at the top of the golf swing for the professional, if we have a line up against my backside here, we will actually see their back hip and their back glute push back and away from where the golf ball is. And when they get themselves into this position here, it enables them plenty of room to get the arms coming down underneath them. So they're able to then sequence up at the moment of impact and get their body turning towards their intended target and creating the most amount of speed and power possible and giving them that efficiency and consistent strike on the golf ball time and time again. So as we can see, if we don't get enough hip depth, we don't get enough turn of those hips in the backswing, it's incredibly hard to give yourself enough room to get the golf club back in front. So face on, let's see what this looks like. Generally, we would see with the recreational golfer where they would tend to slide and move away from the golf ball. Otherwise, they would keep their back hip fixed and actually rotate around it. You'll see that players will generally stand up. And if we draw a circle around my head here, the professional golfer will always tend to stay in posture in the backswing, moving down into impact, and then following through, maintaining that posture the majority of the time. The recreational golfer, once again, something very different, generally standing up, moving out of that initial circle that we drew on our head, and then the same thing presenting at the moment of impact. So allowing your hips to turn in such a way that provides you with some depth to allow that golf club to come underneath you is a great way of getting the feeling of what the professional would do. Well, how do we go about and working on this? How do we create some depth with the hips so we don't early extend? Early extension is the effect to the cause of not turning your hips in such a way in which we get that back hip and that back butt cheek facing away from the golf ball at the top of the swing. Well, there's a couple of feelings that we can look for. So we're going to grab a stick. And with this right here, we're just going to give you some awareness and some feelings of exactly where the hip should be at the top of the swing. So we're going to place this through the belt loops of your pants. And our objective here, when we swing to the top of the backswing, from the down the line view, we're going to try and get this hip moving as far back behind us so we can see that based on the angle that the hips have created, the arms have a lot of room to swing down. Now from this frame here, what we're looking for is when the hands are about in front of the right leg for the right hander, everything would then continue to push forward and rotate, and then the handle would be leaning forward at the moment of impact. From the face-on view, it looks like this. The hips are turning. We would then bring the arms down as we're shifting our pressure forward. So the hands are in front of the back leg like this, giving us plenty of room to then rotate towards the ball. And you can see the handle is in front of the club head. So allowing those hips to turn is very important. But not only that, we need to ensure that we're staying in our posture, our head staying in that circle that we described before, and we're actually pushing far enough back. So what you can do is you can actually place just a stick down in the ground behind you and just rest your backside up against it. And then from the address position, as you swing to the top, you want to try and feel that you're actually pushing that stick away as much as you can. You're going to feel a lot of pressure down on the instep of that back foot, which is what we see with pressure chasers from the best players in the world, versus what we would generally see if this right hip freezes up for myself and I turn around that point. You'll see that I'll actually move in towards the ball and that stands up. So once again, the early extension at the moment of impact is usually a direct effect of not creating enough depth of that hip turn in the backswing. So once you've got that feeling of creating that depth of hip turn, what I want you to do when you have some practice swings next to the ball is just feel like your head's staying relatively in place, you're turning your hips, you feel like your back hip and your back butt cheek is moving away from the golf ball, almost the feeling of this pulley sensation like this as our head stays in its position. If we're doing this and our head is lifting up and moving off the golf ball, well, effectively you're just early extending, but you're moving in a different manner. You're actually just standing up out of your posture. So bringing some awareness to that, we're going to keep our head still. We're going to get the feeling that our right glute is moving back, for myself being a right-hander. And then once you've done that, step into the ball and just clip a couple down there, getting that same feeling. Now, throughout that motion, I felt like my head was staying nice and stable. I felt like my upper body was staying a little bit closer to the ground as I was letting my hips turn, getting that right glute moving back and behind me, and that enabled me to get that ball first, ground second contact and leave a divot after the golf ball. Felt really nice off the club face. So if you've got any questions about how to improve your golf swing and eliminate that early extension, well, the secret is hidden within trying to get enough depth of hip turn in the backswing. If you achieve that, you'll have plenty more room to get that golf club down in front and able to sequence the club, the body, the arms at the moment of impact. So I hope you've enjoyed today's video. If you've got any questions, please ask me below. But until next time, I'm Kerrod Gray. Thanks for watching.